All right. Hello, everybody. This is Redman, and I have Luke. And forgive me if I don't pronounce this correctly, but it's Dunshe.
Done Shay, yeah.
He is a global ambassador with Kaspa. He's somebody that I follow on X. We're both big Kaspa people, so we wanted to bring to light his new website that he's got out. It's Cast Nodes. It is it's a tool for tracking Caspa nodes on the Caspa networks. And Luke, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks, Red. Thanks for having me here. And if it makes you feel better, most people don't pronounce my last name properly, so don't worry at all. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to talk about a little project that I've been doing in my spare time. It feels funny to kind of like do it, and now we're having a call to discuss it because I always kind of was like doing it as a little bit of a side hobby, but it's fun. So yeah, thanks, Red.
So right now we're in the midst of an upgrade as far as Caspa is concerned, and I think the Caspa community is just totally ecstatic about it. Right, Crescendo is here. The upgrade comes what May 5th, 2025. Should be
Yes. May
so. We're
5th. Yep.
So we're about a month out. Everybody is asked to update their nodes. And with that, Luke has dropped his Cast Nodes website. So Luke, you want to just give us a background on your Cast Nodes website, and then what it does, and then how people can utilize it to their benefit?
Yeah, perfect. So, definitely, great for your listeners or watchers, or I'm not sure what you refer to them, but the people that follow you, that may not be too aware of Casper and obviously the big upgrade, because I was kind of mentioned that first. So the Crescendo hard fork is, as you mentioned, coming in roughly about 32 days, I believe it is. And so what that is a non-contentious hard fork. So it is a hard fork with the intention of increasing the block speed amongst many other things. But that is like kind of one of the biggest sort of function changes within it. And so, in order to do that, it's a consensus change, which means that there does have to be a hard fork. But whereas other protocols or projects have had contentious forks where there's been disagreements amongst developers or community members, this one is a change that hopefully the majority of the community and what we're already seeing on cast nodes are agreeing to run with, which is awesome. So I thought I'd just mention that. And just also, yeah, so it is going from 1 block per second to 10 blocks per second, which is absolutely just amazing for proof of work, because up until 1 blocks per second on on Casper, there was no other project that was doing that. We're about to 10x that and turn up the heat. So as far as cache nodes is concerned, I'll take it back to kind of where the intention of this came from. So first of all, I'm not a developer. Like I'm not someone. I come from a tech background, so I do get the tech side of things, and I love tinkering around, and I love just throwing myself at something, and just seeing how far I can get with it, really. And so essentially, I think probably around New Year's, last New Year's, I had some time on my hand, and I was like, I've always wanted to kind of give something back to the community, other than just my advocacy work. My volunteer advocacy work across different regions and online, etc., etc. And so I think one of the really cool things about Casper is there's a lot of, just like obviously many other projects, but I feel really close to this. But I feel like there is a lot of really amazing developers in the community, and it's always been something that has inspired me to try and push myself out there, to try and create something. Try and aspire to these amazing developers, coders, people that are um, contributing to the code base, and see if I could do something. So I had to obviously um, recognize that I may not contribute a pull request to the core Casper code base, but what I can do is, try and build my own little thing, tool, whatever, that I can contribute and maybe other people find value to it. So um, that's kind of like where it was born. But I think the purpose of it was um, I've always like I'm a miner myself. Like I've always loved mining. I enjoy the connection between a physical device and a digital world, right? And that's obviously one of the main things I do love about proof of work because obviously energy is underpinning it, right? And you can't kind of escape that. But I really always loved mining, right? But arguably, or not arguably, but factually, you cannot have a network. Definitely cannot have Casper without miners, and you cannot have Casper without nodes. They go hand in hand, right? It's just a fact. There is, if you did not have people running nodes, you would not have the capability to mine. And so it is one of these things that I've noticed in the community, although everyone is hyper aware of the fact that proof of work requires miners, they may not be aware of the fact that the nodes are just as crucial. And so I've always kind of like thought about that and thought, what can I do to try and bring this more to light, bring more awareness, and hopefully bring more people on board to try and run a node, right? And so um, I I was always aware of different initiatives and different projects, and I will just put this out there that I do take a lot of inspiration for CAS nodes from. There's a Bitcoin one called, I think it's called BitNodes. All right, and essentially it's the concept of, sharing information with the community to show them, firstly, how many nodes are there, but with a caveat. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But second of all, where they are and how distributed they are throughout the network. Like what is the level of sort of decentralization that these nodes have, like whether that's geographic or via network providers like ISPs and hosting providers and the like. So it was something that I've always kind of I was aware of the site. I enjoyed all of the amazing information on there and all of the data because I do love kind of visually seeing things. Sometimes it is hard personally for myself to just grasp lines of words, but I do like to just see visually like what's going on, like how is this, and how can I kind of grasp this as simply as possible. So those things being said, um, I kind of embarked on a all right, cool. It's New Year's or not New Year's, but leading up to New Year's, I'm gonna have a little bit of a play with something. And if you're not aware, there has been a really big rise in AI powered development and AI powered everything. AI, everything. If you're not using ChatGPT in some way, shape, or form, then what, are you even using the internet really, or Grok, or something of the like? So, the reason why I say that is because, as I said earlier, like I have familiarity with different sort of coding languages at a high level, and conceptually I get it, which I think is definitely half the struggle with coding because it's communicating with the computer. But I may not have had the ability or depth of ability to really, really get into the things that were in my head. And that's kind of, I think, one of the things with development, right? You may have an amazing idea or a solution or whatever, but you're not a developer. So you're like, well, all right, well, I'm going to go find someone and pay them. Now, 2025 rolls around, or leading up to 2025, the whole concept of AI powered development has really, really fired up. You know, I tell people there really is no longer an excuse not to take those ideas and bring them into reality. And that was basically what I did, right? So, I started off with an idea, a very simple idea. And hopefully I'll kind of expand on that in a second, which is actually the leaderboard part of the site, which arguably is not actually fully implemented. Like I must step back a minute and say the site, as far as I'm concerned, is still alpha. It is not it's still a working piece of a working tool that I'm bringing together, right? Um, but I'll come back to that. But essentially, had this idea. I saw that there definitely was a need in the community for more education about nodes and the purpose of them, and thought, how can I take this and put it out there in a way that I would like to consume it selfishly. If someone was to create something and I was going to look at it, I want it to be, easy to consume and straight to the point, right? And so all of those things considered, Cas Nodes was born, right? And so, went down the rabbit hole. I ambitiously set a target for myself to complete it in a time frame, which, in hindsight, is quite ridiculous. But um, I put it out there, and I spent some time, and New Year's rolled past, and then January started rolling past, and I was like, "Oh, well, okay, this is actually taking quite a bit longer because I kind of like dived into a lot more than I had originally intended." And hopefully, I'll kind of dive into that bit after. But it expanded from just simple idea to, well, maybe we should add this, maybe we should add that. And I'm sure that every developer out there is laughing because they're like, well, in a development cycle, there's going to be a million different things that get added into the mix, and you really should sort of steer away from getting off the purpose of what you're doing. But I started like having these side quests that it was like, all right, well, okay, the crawler is cool. There is an existing crawler out there. The crawler is kind of underpinning cast nodes. Um, Maybe I should just make my own crawler. Like that would be fantastic if I could kind of just do my own thing and work it out and learn. Because I think like that is at the heart of this really what I was trying to do is educate myself before I can educate others. And so I went off on these side quests that just kind of lasted weeks, and to the point where I was like, well, actually, now I'm kind of losing a little bit of steam here.
Mm.
And I really just need to send it, just full send it, get some feedback from the community. Is this something that others will find as valuable as I hope they see it? And so that's where the current incarnation of Cast Notes has arrived. It is a it is ultimately a site that is providing visuals and straight to the point data about the node spread across the network, right? And it is, as I said, in alpha, or I don't know. It's just early. It's just kind of like not fully finished. I'm working on it daily. People send me things, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll change that. Um, but it's still in that process, and so that's kind of like where it's come from. I'd love to jump into anything else, I
Yeah, let's
suppose, or let you tell me what you think from that, and we can unpack it anymore.
so I'm a big advocate of nodes. Also mining. My background's in mining. I mined Kaspa when I was able to mine it on GPUs. I had a couple RSX GPUs that I was able to mine it on, and I loved it. I love the project ever since I started learning about Jonathan Sampoliski and how many white papers he's in. It's like the guy's a genius. He's a genius, and I've been following his work. I appreciate the fact that Caspa solves the trilemma, and we all know the firepower that is the tech of Caspa. And it's nice to see these things like Cast Nodes, like Cast Map, like all these things come together, and Cast Pixel, and so all these beautiful things come together and gives us different ways to see what's happening on the network itself. And so yeah, if you have a chance, let's go ahead and bring it up. Let's look and see what we got here. Just give us a brief overview of the information that your website puts out. That'd be great.
Yeah, cool. Let me share my screen, and hopefully the presentation gods shine nicely on me today.
I got you.
Um,
There we go.
Perfect. Cool. All right. So this is the landing page. So I suppose one of the big things to really kind of, I want to say first and foremost, that with a decentralized peer-to-peer network like Casper, um, there is intentionally no real way to, with 100% certainty, have every single node listed. It's intentional. It's intentionally obfuscated, and it's by design, right? And so the reason why I say that is because front and center on this page is Cast Nodes estimates the relative size of the Casper peer-to-peer network by finding all of its reachable nodes. And so I really want that to be front and center because ultimately, there is no real way to do this, but there is like a guesstimation with quite good accuracy, I'd say, right?
Okay.
And so even with Bitcoin, the same thing exists, and for any other network really, that's peer to peer. Because if you had an easy way to kind of just pull a list of every single node operator, it could be a way that someone could attack your project. So I suppose
So
oversimplifying
it's
it,
good
but
to
I
have
just wanted
it's
to
good to
mention
have a
that.
little bit of anonymity, a little
Oh,
bit of
100%. Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah, definitely. And that was one of the things because I did have a lot of questions for amazing wizard developers in the community, like Michael Sutton and the like, and and he kind of really hammered home the importance of that, right? But also the importance of the fact that if you are so inclined, the information is out there. So the information to like build your own crawler it exists. It exists. A crawler is the underpinning function that finds all the nodes on the network, right?
mm,
So I suppose, yeah, I wanted to mention that. But as you can see on this page, the dashboard is a couple of main things to be aware of, right? So I'll start with sort of total peers. So total peers is an interesting one, and I probably do intend to perhaps change the name of this because sometimes it can lead people to kind of get a little bit confused. Ultimately, total peers is a combination of all of the IP addresses that every node that my crawler has interacted with has in its database. And so, without getting too technical, but having to clarify it, every node that operates keeps in its own memory a series of IP addresses that it knows have been successfully connected to as other peers. So that's other nodes within the network, right? And so I
mm,
believe the limit is it keeps about 4,096 entries in its memory, but only eight of those entries of those IP addresses are active at any one time. And so those eight addresses that it's active are eight other nodes that it is connected up with out there in a peer-to-peer manner. Right. So the reason
okay.
why I say that is because when I connect to a node as my little crawler that goes out there and finds all the other nodes, I'm essentially asking that node, hey, tell me all of the other people that you know, or in this case, not people, but other nodes that you know. And it says, well, here you go. Here's a thousand nodes that I'm aware of. They may not be active right now, or they might have been from a month ago because the memory might last. That it just depends on when one of those eight falls out of connection, it just grabs another one from another node. But essentially, it grows that kind of memory of how many people it's got. And so the total peers here is essentially a combination of all of the addresses that my crawler has pulled, IP addresses in this case, pulled from those nodes and deduplicating. So if multiple nodes are aware of the same node, I'm removing that out of the mix, right? Okay,
Okay.
so it's essentially a kind of like a snapshot of network growth, but it's not a true representation of kind of like how many people are active out there. So when you look at that, it's not like, okay, there's 21,662 total nodes online. It's more of a way to see overall the tracking of this. And I will say that I might change the name, but I do try to really add a little bit of a FYI here. So for anyone that's inclined and wants to kind of understand this a little bit more, and where I kind of maybe detail some of the deduplication process and some of the process that I use to try and determine what is an online node, what is online or offline, right? So without kind of going too deep into it, I suppose that's essentially what the total peers section is, right?
So Luke,
Um,
so
yeah,
Luke, you mentioned earlier that you do have a leaderboard and
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
and there is daily node rankings. Kind of
yeah.
let's yeah, kind of explain a little bit on how those numbers are accrued. I mean, what do you have to do to be the top node in in the
So,
Casper
I
website?
definitely, definitely. It's an interesting function, and I will shout out that this idea for the rankings actually came from Shai himself, probably about a year ago when we first met, or just over a year ago. We had a little bit of a brainstorm session after the event where we kind of went through a couple of different concepts of like different things. I can't remember the exact context of the conversation, but one of the things that he said, it was like, "Ah, I always thought it was like a cool idea to, incentivize node operators to run a node by having them sort of provide a little bit of a fun ranking."
Mm,
For anyone that's not aware, running a node does not provide you any monetary incentive. We don't pay for people to run nodes, and it's really at the heart of decentralization, because once you pay people to run a node, which is the backbone of the network, it incentivizes it, and then you have entities out there that basically scoop up thousands of nodes and place them wherever they want, and then it becomes essentially controlled by one person, right? And because a node is very, very, very low resource required on Casper, it could lead to issues. So that being the case, Shai came up with this idea, and it was something that stuck with me for a while because I was always like, I wish I could kind of implement that, right? And that's where this page comes from. So essentially, what you're seeing here on the page is, and mind you, this is one of the features that I am displaying. But probably shouldn't because it's not fully baked yet. But I did want to just kind of show it and say, hey guys, like this is a feature that I'm pretty passionate about, and hopefully kind of drum up some interest in that, which it certainly has. Um, so essentially, the intention of this is to give or incentivize node operators to run a node first and foremost,
mm,
keep the node up to date, so run the latest version, and also ensure the uptime of the node, right? So if you have the latest version and you're running it, but you only run it 3 times a week, then that's defeats the purpose, right? A node should be online 24/7. So that being the case, I built a bit of a scoring metric, which essentially takes the data from the crawler and and then applies a scoring to it, right? So it looks at all the nodes out there and it says, all right, so once a day we are going to look at over the last 24 hours, looking at on average, which node has the newest version, right? Which
mm.
node has the most peers, and either each one of these is ranked kind of with a different sort of weighting. I think the agent version and the uptime is ranked kind of the most heavily, but it looks at the average peers and it looks at the uptime for the previous 24 hours and then spits out a score, right? And so that score, as you can see on the page, we've got a daily score for the number one ranked node here, which has a randomized name, which I'll kind of mention in the middle in a minute. But it has said that this node here, which has scored 91.55, and it's on the latest version. Little bit of a bug here. It should say the average peers, but currently just shows some nice little images of little people, faceless people,
So real
and
quick,
24-hour uptime.
Yeah, real quick, Luke, I just want to tell everybody out there, if you since we're talking about uptime, and uptime has to do a lot with the node setup, which has to do a lot with the upgrade that's happening. Just to let you know, the recommended hardware specifications for the new upgrade, the minimum is 8 CPU cores, 16 GB RAM, 256 GB SSD, and 5 megabyte for network bandwidth. So but that's just the minimum. The preferred is actually 12 to 16 CPU cores, 32 GB RAM, 512 GB SSD, and higher network bandwidth for robust peer support. So just to let you guys know, before you upgrade, you better have the specs, because if you don't have the specs, you're not going to be able to upgrade, right?
Yeah, look, I think an important thing to really focus on, that the testing of 10 blocks per second on 10 testnet 10, which is quite saturated with a lot of transactions, and does replicate or attempt to replicate a real world scenario, has determined that having 8 gigs of RAM is just a little bit too little. And so, in the computer world, you jump in kind of increments. And so 16 gigs has been placed forward as definitely the recommended. I'm not too sure about the what you mentioned about the 8 to 16 cores, because in my testing and what I've seen, definitely 8 cores is the spot.
Okay.
But definitely any node with more than 8 cores, and 16 gigs of RAM is definitely not going to have a problem at all. So, um, definitely a good point to call out there, and it is important because previously, as you can see on this page here, where I've detailed the node requirements, 4 cores and 8 gigs of RAM was the minimum, and it's, as you can see, it's just kind of jumped up double, right? And so.
Mhm.
Um, in my testing, just for full transparency, I think the node uses on 10 blocks per second on testnet 10, it hovers around 9 gigs of RAM usage. So it's really not too much more than the 8 gigs that we previously, and so on mainnet for 1 blocks per second, I think it hovers around 7 gigs of RAM, or 6 gigs, if my memory serves me correctly. So really, it hasn't gone up a substantial amount. It's
Yeah.
just in the computer world, the increments of RAM increase. You don't have someone running 10 gigs of RAM. Like, it's just, it doesn't really usually exist. 12 gigs would probably be it, but 12 gigs to 16. So I think just to really keep it as simple as possible, um, these requirements here are going to be pretty well served if you have them. Okay.
Yep.
So we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but I did want to jump back a little bit to the node rankings page and just kind of call out, because it might be a little bit confusing because you're seeing all these kind of random names here, and people are going to go, "What the hell is that?" And so, as I kind of mentioned earlier, that with a network, a peer-to-peer network, there's not an easy button that you can just say, "Give me all the node addresses," right? There
Mhm.
exists software like a crawler, which goes out there and tries to find all the nodes out on the network. Um, and they exist. They're fully out there. There's a repository you jump onto today, spin up a crawler in 20 minutes if you're so inclined, and you could potentially have the full list of IP addresses. But um, my thought was, I just didn't want to really serve up people's IP addresses on a silver platter to the general public. If you're a technical person, you're just going to laugh and go, "Well, if I want to go get it, I'll go get it." But often friction is the biggest pain point for people, and so if I made it a little bit harder by not publicly displaying node IP addresses, then I feel a bit more comfortable with that. So that was the train of thought behind these randomized names here. And so essentially, each node gets given a random name. And then in the future, the person who claims the node will be able to change this name to whatever they'd like, and then display whatever image they'd like on this page that represents their node. So if you're a business and you want to say, "I'm the number one node in the network," and you want to, put your little business name here, or you want to share a picture of your dog or your cat, then you can definitely go and do it.
That's neat.
So
It's like your own little X page.
exactly.
You got all kinds of
And
personalization.
I want to just kind of make it fun. I want to make it fun for people to run a node. We're not going to pay you to do it, but if you run a node and you happen to have all those criteria, which generally speaking is not hard at all. Like, if you just update your node and you keep it online, it's not hard.
Right.
Then you'll be up in the top. And so yeah, this is the page that you get when you click into it. Has a nice different spread of information on there. As I mentioned earlier, this will be customizable. This little spread here of node, I call it a node vanity image, but call it whatever you want. Um, and this is just kind of like a breakdown of some of the information. So it seems that the node that has been assessed in the last 24 hours, to have been the top one, is one that's located in Nuremberg. So apologies for butchering that for any Germans out there, but it seems that that's the top one at the moment, and you get a little nice little sort of visual of where it's located. It's not going to be down to the street, but it'll show you the region, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you considered creating educational resources about the importance of node decentralization that could be integrated into Cas nodes or Caspa?
So look, my goal here is I want to make CAS nodes, and it may be an ambitious goal, but I want to make CAS nodes the center of the universe when it comes to Casper nodes information, data on availability and where they are, and educational content on how to set them up, and as you can see here, even buy them if you're so inclined, right? And so
Mhm.
that will definitely include educational content, whether it's in a video
Yeah,
format
I
or not.
I
That
didn't I didn't know if that was something that you wanted to get into just yet, because I know that's something that is spinning up, right? You're not totally done with that part. So, but yeah,
yeah,
if you want to go into it, I'm down, man. I'd love to learn about it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think my goal here is I love educating myself first and foremost. And if I feel comfortable enough with that education and I can then pass it on to someone else and they benefit from it, then it's a win for me and it makes it all kind of worthwhile at the end. Um, so I just want to wrap up this page, I suppose. So the intention here will be, if you're a node operator, you do see some value in playing around with this little fun concept of a ranking. You kind of create an account. You'll register your login there and set yourself up, and then you'll input your IP address. And the only person that can claim that IP address is the person connecting from that IP address. It doesn't really protect in every single scenario where someone could kind of game the system, but it's a balancing act. It's as good as it can be, which I think is sufficient for the requirement,
Mhm.
and you'll claim it, and you can do whatever you want. You can call it Luke's node, you can call it Red's node, do whatever you please. So that's a cool thing. As you see, claim node coming soon. It's not there, but it's kind of conceptually this is what it's going to look at, and so you'll see that it does show you many pages of the different nodes, and kind of as you can see, like the lowest ranked one currently is
So
is is got
in
it's got a quite
essence,
an old version.
yeah, in essence, could you link it to your KNS domain name?
That is definitely something that I've considered, and it's not out of the question. So at the moment, it's me throwing in every single idea I can, but really trying to focus on what is achievable with my small brain. But definitely KNS name linking is definitely a concept that I'd love to see, and just more interaction with different ecosystems within Casper would be cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
great idea, definitely. Um, but yeah, look, that's this page, which arguably does provide a visibility into kind of the concept, but it may not be. It's not fully baked yet. So watch this space. It's a cool little idea there. Network page. I'll just kind of whiz through a little bit, but this is one that I do enjoy and one that I really enjoy. Specifically, this view, which is this historical view of version adoption. And so
Mhm.
one of the things that really, when I was trying to kind of put cast notes together that I thought was really missing was, yes, we know at a glance what the current snapshot of versioning is across the network as of the moment you run that crawl and you see all the different versions, but nobody is tracking it over time. And so I
Mhm.
think that like seeing things over time, you can see trends, you can see different things that occur. Like visually, right now on this page, we can see essentially two things that I'll call out. We can call out that on I think it's the 4th of March, version 17 dropped, and on the 5th of March, we already had 5 people who moved across, and then it grows and it grows and 30, and it kind of peaks at maybe 53 people were running that version. And then you can see on the 30th, or sorry, the 31st, we've got 48 nodes. And then boom, on the 1st of April, that jumps up to 36 people. And you can see the decline in people on version 17. And you can make an assumption that the version 17 people have now updated to version 1. right?
Yeah.
And so it's a cool sort of tracking thing. I think seeing data gives people a vision of like what's going on out there in the network, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, this is a cool little page here. We'll tweak things as we go along. Yes, as you can see, I've got little coming soon tags on some data pieces that I'd like to kind of flesh out a bit more. Um, I've broken down the spread of nodes via their external IP address. I won't get into
Right.
the real technicals of it, but it spreads out this way, which is there's nothing wrong with the fact that it says three. It's just running an external address as an IPv6 address is not very common. So
Mhm.
that's why the number is three. Um, yeah, and then across to like network growth, and so I probably will tweak this a little bit more. This is maybe not the best way to display it, but hopefully over time, as we see the network grow, and adjust, we'll be able to see really visual, like good visuals on like where it's going there. And then this one here, which is essentially showing the the point of this bit is actually to show the decentralization of nodes by network. Because one of the
Mm.
biggest things that people aren't aware of is that um, yes, nodes could be hosted geographically in different locations around the world. But if those nodes have been hosted on all on the same hosting provider, like for example, if someone chooses to host 20 nodes on AWS all around the world, ultimately they are nodes that are all hosted primarily on the same network. And so the
Mhm.
network is broken up into many, many, many different layers. It's not just like one pipe going around there. This pipe intersects into different networks that are owned by different corporations, different companies, different countries. And so this is meant to represent, okay, where is the actual spread of nodes across the network? Do we have a concentration of Casper nodes that exist in AWS? And so you can see here, from what we can see based off the AS, which is essentially a number that represents that network segment, we can see we've got 5 nodes running on AWS. We have 24 hosted on OVH. The OVH, I believe, is a
Mhm.
hosting provider. So they have, people can spin up what is called a VPS or a virtual private server, and they can utilize essentially resources for hire. And then by extension, Hetzner as well, I believe, is the same thing. But as you go down here, you start seeing all these different someone's running one node on this AS here, and that's likely a local ISP. Like someone that an ISP is just the internet provider in that area, and so we're seeing
Right.
like all of these different internet providers where people are essentially running their node on their home internet.
And more importantly, it shows the decentralization of the nodes in the network. I mean, that's the most important part, right? Because
Exactly.
people, it's just like you were talking about before. Once these things become monetized, and once people figure out they can make money from it, then the central entities come in and they kind of take over, right? And it kind of kills price action. They sell everything all at once, and so you know as much as the institutional money is good for crypto, it's also bad, for crypto. So I like seeing this visualization software that you have. It creates it makes you want to continue to validate
Yeah.
transactions on the
Yeah.
Caspa network, and I believe that's one of the better things about Cas nodes is you're able to track yourself, you're able to see other people come on, but more importantly, you're able to add to the network security and the decentralization of the network, and be a part of you can be a part of something now. So that's where I believe, like, those ideas that you had with the customization and everything like that, that just encourages people, right?
Yeah.
Just gives people more incentive to come back and be a part of this. But yeah,
Definitely.
is there anything else that you wanted to highlight?
Look, I mean, there's a couple of other tabs here.
Okay.
Geographic distribution. It definitely touches on, where in the world, and this lovely little map here, this little button which takes you to.
Gas map.
It's not sharing, but maybe I'll just quickly show that quickly. and you'll be able to see if you can. I don't know if you need to approve to let me reshare
Oh,
that.
I'll bring that up. Yeah, I got you. There we go.
Yeah, so this is essentially a fun little feature that I added to the site, which is meant to give you another way to visualize the spread of nodes around the world. Okay,
Mm,
so looking at a flat map on the page can kind of, and you're sort of moving around, yeah, it can kind of throw off where it is. So this is essentially meant to represent um, where in the world different nodes are, like and these little things. So there's three here, right? And if you click on it, it lets you click in and see. All right, well, there's one in Hong Kong. Its randomized name is called Stable Swap, and that's the ASN that's using Alibaba. So
mhm.
just a fun little way. There was a little different. There's an additional feature that I did add in here because I would love to see this used as kind of like a little you know those like little map boards that in life and people put a pin to represent like
Yeah,
where they are. I
yeah.
wanted that to kind of be like this. And so this actually has the function where you can choose your location. And if you have Casware on your browser, you pay 1 CAS and you can leave your message. And so that
Mm.
means you can leave a mark on the world. Let me see if I can find one. I think someone put one here. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, so this person here called T-Type 23, shout out to you. He placed a message there that says this and a link to his page. So cool little fun feature. Something that I personally wanted to just implement because I actually just wanted to figure out a way to create a function of first of all receiving CAS, but then also verifying it because people could kind of game the system. So there's a kind of back end that functions just to make sure that the transaction actually occurs. Um, but in addition to that, also shows you how quick it runs. So if I was to do
Mhm.
a transaction right now, it actually has a counter and it says transaction was verified in 2 seconds, 3 seconds, etc., etc. So
That's amazing, man. That's
fun
amazing.
fun fun ways to get people involved and but yeah, I'll maybe just jump back to the page and I'll just give a quick overview of just I'll just click through some of the other things, but I don't know if we need to go too deep into it. Oh, that's not it.
So,
That's my
and
that's
I gotta wait for you. That's right. Because if
yeah, so
I'm,
if
if,
you click on now, I think you should
yeah,
approve.
there we go.
Cool. We're back on the page here again. It's just breaking it down by region, which is cool. And then the last two functions is just kind of setting up a node. This is something that I'm actively working on at the moment. I'm actually going to release, hopefully, once I uh, pull pull myself out of procrastinating, a quick video that shows how to set up a node in under 5 minutes and with as minimal amount of clicks as possible.
Mm.
So I really want to keep this simple. I really want to show new users who are interested in running a node really just how easy it is and some of the benefits. So this page is really a testament to that. I want it to be a one pager that has all the different methods and how to get involved. So set up a guide, some information on what to do, mentioning different elements of it, and yeah. Um, and then I suppose if you don't have any questions about that, I'll jump to the buy nodes page, which
Yeah,
is
yeah. Because
yeah.
I signed up for this. I went ahead and filled out the form and everything. Really can't do anything with it right now, right, Luke?
There is the reason why I'm not just putting it out there to the world right this second is I'm actively testing. I actually have that node right in front of me, like literally the one that's in that picture. So I have this like literally the same one right in front of me. I'm
Cool,
actively testing that software wise right now. So
cool.
I come from, as I said earlier, I come from like the IT world, and right, the biggest thing with IT is that if you overcomplicate things, it may not be an issue right now. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about general user consumption out in the world. I'm not talking about developing a code base, but if you make things overly complicated, in the future, most people will forget what to do, and most people will run into problems. So you have to think long term about if you're creating something for the average person, it needs to be as simple as possible. There's
It
this
looks like a
acronym
little. It looks like a little pie. That's. It looks like a
that's
little.
it. It's crazy. Like computers are getting so small. Like this, this is an example of a Raspberry Pi, right? So this is a
Yeah.
single board computer, and so currently, you can definitely run a Casper node on it. There is an 8 gig variant of the Raspberry Pi, that will absolutely smash it. There is also a 16 gig variant that's actually just been released of the Raspberry Pi 5, which, I'm a huge fan of the platform. I have multiple kicking around. Like as you can see, I have a lot of these sort of Raspberry Pis.
Right.
But the problem is they've gotten to a point where they're just a little bit too expensive for the 16 gig variant, and that's where like things like this are coming into the mix. Where like this is a 4 core, 12 gig of RAM, 256 gig SSD, mini computer,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
this would, definitely be an option for running a node on, and something I'm considering that maybe I will provide it as an option for people that are so inclined, and just want to buy it, and set and forget, I suppose. And
Yeah.
yeah, so just doing some testing. But yeah, the intention here is for people that really want it, um, and want to buy one. I want to give them the option, but I do want it to be really transparent that I do recommend people exploring how to set it up themselves first. So
Mhm.
there is free options. I'm not trying to capitalize on everyone, but if you would like to spend some money and buy one, then go for it and I'll sell it to you.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think that's what kind of like, it's the reason why I kind of gravitated to you, Luke. I've been following you now ever since, I kind of met you guys in Las Vegas last year when you came. Got to shake Shy's hand, but I didn't really get to talk to him, but I got to talk to Chad and I got to talk to you for a second. And I really enjoyed you guys and how genuine you were and how much you wanted to just teach people about this great tech. And I was kind of in awe a little bit. I was like, wow, there's organic people out there that truly just want to add to the network and want to see it grow and want to see mass adoption in the world, not just the United States, not just Australia, not just UK, but the world. And so they actually want to make the world a better place. And I think that's one of the big things why I've stayed in contact with you, because you are real. You are real. And I just want to put your page up here for a second so everybody could see. If you guys get a chance, go follow Luke. Let's see if I can bring it up here. There we go. So this is Luke's page. As you can see, L Dion, LD1, LD1.
LD1. It's a representation of
There.
my initials, Luke Dunshay. So LD and said in the way and one because there was someone else who already had LD.
Yeah. Yeah. So go follow Luke. Scroll through all of his tweets. They're all educational. They're all about Kaspa. Luke is the global ambassador for Kaspa, unless that's changed. Has that changed?
It hasn't changed, but I do love to really add a little asterisk to that. That I kind of do in a way lead some of the ambassador program initiatives, but I want it to be really well known that I do personally see everyone in the community who supports Casper as rightfully their own ambassador. And
Mm,
so when people say like he is the global ambassador, I do giggle a little bit because it kind of makes me feel like there's only one. But I'm just a man on the internet, and a big supporter of Casper, and someone that I do like to see myself as being an ambassador of Casper. But I also recognize that there's people out there, across many different platforms that are an ambassador, that may not be calling themselves one. So it's not that it's changed. I do have a little bit of a giggle, when they say that and they go, he's the global ambassador. Like, what? There's just one dude up there on the stage going, Casper, Casper. No. There's many people. It's all good.
I've got the pleasure of meeting a couple. I follow a couple on Twitter, but guys, go follow Luke. Follow Kaspa. Learn about Kaspa. learn about how great it is, what the tech is all about, learn about what you could do on the blockchain, and interact with people, interact with the blockchain, utilize it. Here pretty soon, it's going to be a lot different than what it is today. And I can't wait till that day comes. So thank you all for joining us. And this is Redman. He is Luke, and we are out. All right.